Hello everyone, welcome back to Daily Break TV. And today's news, we're hearing about the sad reality that Sofia Vergara and Joe Manganiello divorced over a disagreement about having kids.
I think that that's the challenge, is to create a bubble where I can be a normal person and have a normal life. Get married, God willing, have a kid.
Did you know that she was the one? Like, when did you know that?
I knew like right away.
Too handsome, younger than me, so I'm like, it didn't even pass into my head that it was when we were gonna end up married.
Now, I'm reading all of the comments and I kind of agree with the side of people wondering why they didn't have this conversation sooner. Now, I'm not going to assume they didn't have the conversation about children, but clearly Joe must have changed his mind. After all, when they met, which was just about 9 years ago, she was already 43. Like, she was in her early 40s, okay? And that is not the time at the beginning of a marriage in your early 40s that you're thinking you're gonna have children. Now, I don't blame Joe for changing his mind. Can couples change mind? Can individuals change their mind? Absolutely. But it's not something that you typically do on a major issue. So here's a statement from Sofia. He wanted to have kids. I didn't want to be an old mom. I feel it's not fair to the baby. I respect whoever does it, but that's not for me anymore. Do you guys know that Sofia had a child at 19? Her son is in his early 30s. She's envisioning having grandkids, okay? She wants to have a baby and she wants to give it back.
People know that's part of being a celebrity. I knew it was gonna happen. You can't hide those things.
She's actually entering menopause. So this seems, for a lot of people, very, very confusing. Why would a couple, as you explore their timeline and celebrating major milestones, her 50th birthday, all of these events, hand in hand, you go through anybody's romantic relationship timeline, and of course it seems like a whirlwind, a fairy tale. She is Latina and spicy, and he's a hunk of a guy, so they look like the perfect power couple, Romeo and Juliet, Latin style. But at the end of the day,
I think that you have more options with men also.
I think so.
I'm single now.
this is a major deal breaker. Sofia does not want to have kids, and he wanted to have children with her. The thing is, he filed for divorce in July. Okay, if you look at the relationship timeline, he filed for divorce in July. Of course, they cited irreconcilable differences because they probably didn't want to talk about the intimacies, and it's nobody's business.
Married life, by the way. Great, man. Yeah, my wife's the best.
But 6 months has passed. He started dating. She is now dating. So I think at this point, she's opening up about that relationship. I'm sure she was tired of people asking questions.
Calm down, ma'am. Everything's gonna be fine.
What about my husband?
Everything but your husband is gonna be fine.
And I think there's something to be learned and experienced by a lot of people. I'm going through the comments. Oh my God, there's so many people that are Team Sofia. Good for her for sticking up to her guns. However, I don't understand how this wasn't a conversation that happened before they got married. I think a lot of people make assumptions, first of all, that they didn't have this conversation. Of course they had this conversation, but it doesn't mean that one doesn't change their mind. I look at it from a matchmaker's perspective. You can only take a man's word, a woman's word, and when you're asking those questions up front, you can't say to him, oh, you're young. She actually stated,
Too handsome, younger than me, so I'm like, it didn't even pass into my head that it was when we were gonna end up married.
well, my husband's younger than me and I don't want to be an old mom. And as if that, him being younger was a contributing factor to him wanting to have children. That's her experience, right? Just because you're younger doesn't mean that, you want to have children. But of course, in this particular case, within their relationship before they got together, she already had a child. So he knew that he's dating somebody with an adult child. Her child was not a baby. So perhaps he felt over the years that he missed out on being able to raise a young child, right? The fact is, for Sofia, which I can empathize with, when they met, she was actually engaged to Nick. And from the news that I hear about the timeline, Nick and her actually had a dispute for years over her eggs. He actually wanted to, potentially use her eggs that they did together and have them go full term. Now, I mean, what man would not want to make a baby with Sofia? She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, she's smart, got all the curves. Your children would hopefully look like her and you, that they would make beautiful babies. I find that kind of odd, which is why I think there's an extra sensitivity there for her to not want to have children. Here she is, firm in her belief, I don't want to have any more kids. She's actually fighting with an ex to not have him fertilize eggs that they did together. Imagine that. That would be traumatizing. I'd have like embryo PTSD. So I get it. I empathize with them. But here's the lesson learned, guys. We don't know what's going on in their relationship. And as much as we can speculate and we can say, you should have talked about it, of course they talked about it. And we don't know all the details. They grew apart, whatever the case is. She has every right.
I feel independent. I feel that, I don't need to ask anyone for anything.
To not want to have a child. And there's a lot of people from comments and from my own experience that will end up having a child to appease their partner. And I firmly respect the fact that they both agreed to part ways. She's not having a baby just because he wants to have a baby, and he's not carrying on the relationship feeling unfulfilled when that's ultimately going to be a deal breaker and cause a lot more drama.
Did you know that she was the one? Like, when did you know that?
I knew like right away.
So I would love to hear your take on what you think about this situation. I don't think it's something that could have been predicted, and clearly based on their relationship and their love and regard for each other, they had a wonderful relationship while it lasted, and they both seemed to have an extremely positive attitude about moving forward. So
you overcome that?
It wasn't bad. I think, I have to say the press was very respectful and very nice, and I thought that they were going to invent more things, how they usually is, and I was surprised. And no, they kind of like just said what it was, and that was it. And, I've been moving on.
I think that's the challenge, is to create a bubble where I can be a normal person and have a normal life, get married, God willing, have a kid.
I wish them both the best of luck. I think that he's already on his way finding the baby maker, and she's ready to live her life, hopefully have the grandbaby that she can have temporarily to give back. So that's your Daily Break news for today, and we will see you next time.